Hey guys, I wanted to offer you some tips and suggestions on how you can keep your fascia healthy. So my first suggestion for you would be to be hydrated, to be well hydrated. So when you're an infant, you're roughly 75% fluid. When you're a child, you're roughly 65% fluid. And as you age, when you're an adult, you're anywhere between 50 and 60% fluid, depending on whether you're male or female, or how much lean tissue you have versus fatty tissue you have. There's lots of different factors that play into how hydrated you are. For example, lean tissue can hold more fluid than fatty tissue. But if we carry on with that process, what we're seeing is that the process of aging is essentially the process of drying out. We lose fluid in our body. So a grape to a raisin would be a really great example. So a grape is full of fluid. It's plump, it's large, and as it starts to lose fluid, it becomes compressed, smaller, harder, more shriveled up, wrinkled. And that's essentially what happens to us and our tissue as we age. So to use an example of hydrated versus dehydrated tissue, I have an example of a moist sponge. So this is representational of hydrated tissue. So you can see that this sponge, it's bouncy, it's got a springiness to it, it's soft, it's full and thick, it's fairly flexible. If I compress it, it kind of goes back to its original form with fairly good resilience. Now, if I were to compare that to a dehydrated sponge, or in this case, dehydrated tissue, if we just compare these two, for example, you can see quite a difference in the hydrated sponge versus the dehydrated sponge. You can see that there's a significant difference in shape and in thickness and in fullness and in size. So the dehydrated sponge, it's fairly hard. It doesn't have a lot of flexibility to it. And if I compressed this hard enough, I'm fairly certain it would break. So that is very similar to how your tissue would respond if it was really dehydrated. So if we apply this understanding and these concepts of hydration to stretching, for example, when we're stretching our bodies, what we're really looking for to get an efficient stretch is we're looking for a slide and glide amongst the fascial sheaths, the fascial layers. Now, if we're dehydrated, what happens is those fascial layers become sticky and kind of tacked down and glued together. And before you know it, there's not much slide and glide happening anymore. And that's really what we're looking for when we're stretching. If we carried that further into movement, same kind of awareness, same kind of concept. If you have hydrated tissue, you're likely to move with more efficiency. You're likely to be at less risk of an injury. You're likely to move with more fluidity. See what I did there? So, how can you ensure that your body is absorbing all this water you're supposed to be taking in on the regular? Well, if I took this dehydrated sponge and I ran it under the tap and I held it under the water and I massaged it and broke up the dryness in the sponge would slowly start to absorb water and it would begin to look more and more like this one. Now, in a similar way, your body needs to be manually worked. You need to mobilize and manually work your tissue in order for your body to start absorbing all this water that you're putting in. Now, how much water should you drink on the regular? You should have about half your body weight in ounces of water per day. And the quality of water is just as important. So it should be well filtered and preferably alkalinized water to make sure that you're getting the best fluid into your body as possible. So you're going to get the best result possible. So if you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and I look forward to sharing with you more health and wellness information soon.